I could save my life with these 2 books. They are so large. Hi everyone, my name is Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading, and this is the start of my monthly wrap-up vlog. It is February 4th, and I've already finished a book, but this vlog, I want to do something a little bit differently. I've been vlogging my way through my reads for a few months, but this year I have a lot of month-long readathons that I'm not necessarily doing vlogs specifically for because it just doesn't work with the other content that I have coming out. And also, I'm doing the Bookemon challenge, which is a year-long readathon hosted by Reading with Merb. So I'm doing all these month-long and year-long content, and I want to let you know in my vlogs what I'm using the books for and all kind of like the behind the scenes of those. So I'm gonna try that for this month, and we'll see if we like it, see if it works, and then we might continue that through the year. This month is February, and I'm doing the Bookemon challenge, doing that every month, so you're gonna see that constantly throughout the year. But I'm also doing the Battle of the Girl Bands this month, hosted by Rainy Blue Reads. I'm actually a co-host for the Readathon for Team Cheetah Girls. So I'm gonna kind of make this the behind the scenes of that Readathon as well. What I'm using for each book, how I'm using the points, what team points I'm stealing, what I'm up to. So that's what we're gonna do for this monthly wrap-up vlog, and we'll see if we like it. I think it's gonna bring something a bit extra and make it a little bit more interesting for you to watch and also for me to make. Sometimes I feel like the wrap-up vlogs are very similar to my other vlogs because obviously it's the same book. So we're gonna switch it up. We're gonna do it a little bit differently and we'll see how it goes. This will be a trial run. It's just a little addition, a little difference from how we normally do them. So far this month, I have read Flamefall. I finished this yesterday. This is the second book in the Fireborn series by Rosaria Munda. This book ended up on my Timmies TBR because of a series spinner wheel space. The board told me to spin the wheel. I got Fireborn. I'm not mad about it because I loved Fireborn. I gave it 5 stars, really wanted to continue. And now I have. In Flamefall, I liked even more than Fireborn, and I gave Fireborn 5 stars. This is almost a perfect second book. No book is perfect, so I don't want to say that it's perfect, but it's pretty close to perfection for this series. This series is so intricate in its political world and what is going on and the look of politics in this society and this look of 2 regimes, one that's been overthrown and now one that has been taking over for the last, 10, 15 years, and seeing that power corrupts no matter who has it. Your new regime is starting to look a lot like your old regime. Your old regime is trying to take back over, and who is caught in the middle but civilians? Civilians are caught in the middle of this power grab that is happening between these 2 ruling factions. And it really cuts to the heart of that. It really makes you look at what side would you pick? And honestly, neither side is great because they're both corrupt in their own ways. So you're kind of asked to pick the lesser of 2 evils or hope that there's a third option that maybe you don't see. It's just such an intricate look at a political system and about a war and a revolution. And even the back, it says the second revolution is coming. Which side are you on? It wants you to fall in love with these characters who are these young adults who are these dragon riders for this new faction and are still some connected to the old faction. And you're trying to see them come and figure out what they agree with and what they believe at the same time as you are. It's such an interesting and intricate plot line and world building. And there's dragons. Like, it has everything. If you have not picked up Fireborn yet, please do. These books are fantastic. There's still one more in the series, and it took everything within me not to start it right away, but I can't because I'm starting a new theme reading vlog today, and this is not the theme. But I really hope to get to Fury Song very soon because I need to know how this ends. I noticed in the author's summary that she took political theory at Princeton, and that shocks me none because the understanding of politics in this book can only be done by someone who knows what they're talking about. So someone who has studied politics in and of itself. This book I'm using for Battle of the Girl Bands. This book I used for Animal on the Cover. That's what I used it for. Team Cheetah Girls, we have to get 4 prompts of our own before we can steal from other people. So I'm using this for Animal on the Cover because there is a dragon on the cover amongst all this foliage, and a dragon is a mythical animal, but 'tis be an animal. I'm not using this for Bookemon because it doesn't really fit any of the Bookemon prompts that I have not already filled, and that's what I'm using this for. And now I need to go on to the next. Like I said, I'm starting a themed reading vlog this week. The theme is trying to become a FANRO girly. By the time you see this, I have already put out that vlog. I will link it down below. So I am going to, again, doing these vlogs a little bit differently. I'm going to review the weekly vlog content at the end of the week so that it's not regurgitating the same thing that's in the vlogs, because assuming you've seen the vlogs, you don't need to hear the same thoughts that are in the vlogs. So I will still put them in the wrap up and still tell you what I use them for, you know, Bookemon, Cheetah Girls, my star rating, you know, general overviews, but not super in-deep thoughts because I vlogged those. Obviously, there will also be books in this wrap up that I didn't vlog because I have things elsewhere. So you'll see me kind of pop in as I finish books that I'm not vlogging. And then at the end of the week, I'll pop in and do like an overview of what I vlogged this week and my star ratings, like I said, all the things around that. But I'll also link the vlog if you want more in-depth thoughts about those books. I hope this new edition of Wrap Up works, but let's jump in and I need to go start reading some FANRO books. So I will see you when I either complete another book or when I complete the 3 FANRO books, whatever comes first. So it is now Saturday, February 10th, and I have been reading fantasy romance all week long. Now, if you want to know my in-depth thoughts on those 3 books, I will link the vlog that I did them on. So we're just going to do a really quick overview because if you've watched that video, you know my thoughts. I don't need to repeat them all here in depthly, but I am going to give you my star ratings and all that good stuff here as well. So the first book I read for that vlog was Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This one I ended up giving 3.5 stars, but the vibes in this are vibing. This is definitely a vibes book. I really did have a pretty enjoyable time with it. There was just some plotting issues that I couldn't look past. But 3.5 stars is what this got, but I did end up fulfilling a lot of things with this for various readathons. So for Battle of the Girl Bands, I ended up using this to get my second prompt for Team Cheetah Girls, and that was for a cover that screams at you. There has been some debate over what that means. And I can understand, so I'm kind of taking it as this cover screams at me because it's beautiful. It's captivating, it's gorgeous, this cover is fire, so it screams at me to pick it up. So that's how I took that, and that's how I filled this prompt to get some points for Team Cheetah Girls. Then for Bookemon, I actually used this for a couple of things. This week, the Valentine's Bookemon was announced. So for the Valentine's Bookemon, you need to get a ton of treats and fill your treat bag. Each treat has a monetary value. And when you fill your treat bag with, I think it's $25 in treats, I think, you have all month to do it, you get the Valentine Bookemon. So I have read this to get a chocolate bar, which I believe is $2 towards my bag. So I'm moving a bit slowly, but that's what I used it for. But luckily with the Valentine's Bookemon, you can also double up and use it for a regular Bookemon as well. So I use this to get part of my volcanic rock. So for the volcanic rock, you need to use like a book club book for 6 months in a row. I did Nicole's book club last month, and for this month, I'm going to use the B&K book club book for the volcanic rock. So you have to do it for 6 months in a row to get the volcanic rock. So it's a little bit more in depth, but I'm okay to participate in 6 book clubs. I mean, there's 1,000 book clubs here on BookTube to participate in. So I did this for B&K book club and it worked to get me the second part of the volcanic rock. Then I read Serpent in the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This book also got 3.5 stars and was really opposite for me from the reasoning behind Powerless getting that rating. For this, the plotting was great. The world building was fantastic. Carissa Broadbent can build a world. Like, it is intricate and it is fabulous. But because of that and because of the pacing of this book, because there is a lot of trials and we hit the gate running and we don't stop till the end of the book. It is breakneck speed. I felt like I didn't have time to get to know the characters and there wasn't a lot of space for that in this book just due to the fact that there was just so much happening in this book. And that's how we got to the rating that we got to. But this also filled a lot of different things. So for Team Cheetah Girls, I ended up using this for an author you've never read from before. This is my first Carissa Broadbent, and that worked for this prompt. And then for Bookemon, I also got a chocolate bar with this. So now we're up to $4 towards our Valentine's Bookemon. And I also used it to get the acorn as a regular Bookemon item, which is the prompt of popular book. So obviously, Serpent and the Wings of Night is extremely popular. So that worked out perfectly well for that. The last book I read, I actually got no items for and did not fill a prompt with it because I did end up DNFing it. And that was The Foxglove King by Hannah Winton. I am so sad that I had to DNF this, but I just did not care about the characters and I could not sink into the story and it just did not work for me personally. And I only ended up getting to 16%. So I would have had to get to 51% to count it for anything for Team Cheetah Girls and also for Bookemon. So this I did read. My thoughts are in the vlog of what I thought of it up until the point of a DNF, but I did DNF this month. I'm going to start adding my DNFs to this wrap up because it is what's happening in my week. Normally I skip over the DNFs, but then sometimes people notice that I'm reading things on sprints and then never know the conclusion of them because I DNF them. And if it's not in a video, I don't talk about it. So you don't know that I DNF'd it. So I will put my DNFs in here. Obviously DNFs I do not rate. I do not rate them on Goodreads. I don't rate them anywhere because I didn't finish the book. I don't feel like I should rate books that I don't finish. I can really only tell you why it didn't work for me up until the point that I read it. Could it have changed after I DNF'd it? Yes. Like books, if I power through, sometimes they change, but I chose not to power through and DNF'd Hannah Winton and it got me no points. So that is what I've read up until now, up until this week. We're the 10th day of February and I've only read 3 books, but they have been some chunky books. So yes, I've only read 3 books. I have read a ton of pages because I think the smallest book that I've read is like 496 pages. So not a lot of books, but a lot of reading has been happening for sure. This week, I am filming a vlog and it's a challenge vlog. It's how many host favorites from Battle of the Boy Bands can I read in 24 hours with the 24-hour timer. And I have not done the timer challenge vlog in a very long time. I did it really early last year when my channel was much smaller than it is now. So I'm excited to kind of revive the challenge, try it again, but also read a ton of my friends' favorite books, their host favorites, and these are all my friends. So I'm going to be reading some of their favorite reads and I expect to love a lot of them. So that's what I'm going to be doing this week. I'm going to wrap up that vlog similar to how I wrapped up this, where I come at the end of the vlog and tell you what I read, my star ratings, what I used it for. However, I do think I'll be reading a couple other books this week that have nothing to do with that vlog, so you'll see me as I finish those. But who knows what will happen, so let's see. So today is February 11th, and yesterday I read some manga. I read 3 volumes of manga to get my last Team Cheetah Girl prompt so that I can start stealing from other teams. The first volume of this was on Timmies TBR, so I needed to read this anyway. So it was the perfect time to knock out 3 volumes, get some points for Team Cheetah, and also get something off my TBR. So I read Love You for Who I Am by Katya Konayama. I think that's how you say the author's name. I'm sorry if I said it incorrectly. I read the first 3 volumes of this book. This follows Magumo. Magumo is a non-binary person and really wants to fit in and really wants to have friends. Puts a wish on their school like wishing tree, and someone named Tatsu sees it, really feels for Magamu and invites them to come work at their sister's cafe. Their sister runs an untraditional maid cafe, which is basically for people who don't necessarily fit into the gender assignment that they have. So there's lots of different representation through the various characters at this cafe. We have non-binary rep, we have trans rep, we have queer rep in all of its forms throughout all 3 volumes that I read. And I really appreciated what this manga was doing. I think it's really important what it's trying to do, especially since it talks about how gay marriage is not legal in Japan. It really is covering that it needs to be. And we need to move forward in this in a culture where maybe we haven't moved as far forward as we have here in Western cultures. But obviously, we still need to move forward too. So reading these is still applicable to anyone and everyone, and this kind of representation in literature is so important. The only issue that I had with this book was the art style and a little bit of the writing style. It was very jumpy, and I found it hard to follow at times. We would be doing something and then we jump to a whole other something, and I would kind of get a bit whiplashy about what was happening. Also with the art style, almost every face is very, very similar. So it was very hard to differentiate between each character, and I found that I was getting confused from time to time. So because of that and the various things that I said before, I ended up giving all 3 volumes 3.5 stars. Now let's get into what this gives me. Like I said, this was on Timmies TBR, so check, starting to complete that Timmies TBR. We also completed my last Cheetah Girls mandatory prompt of BIPOC and LGBTQ plus author, so got those points as well. So now I can start stealing for Team Cheetah Girls, which is very exciting. For the Valentine's Bookemon, there is a prompt of cookies, which is to read a manga. So I ended up getting 3 cookies, which was $6 towards my Valentine's Bookemon bag. And also for Bookemon, I'm using these to get my red envelope towards my Lunar New Year Bookemon. And that's what all these covered. They ended up getting me a lot of things for a lot of different readathons, and I'm really glad that I started this series. So it is the 20th of February, and last week I finished 5 host favorites for Battle of the Girl Bands and the 24-hour timer challenge. If you want to see my full detailed reviews on these next 5 books, I will link the challenge vlog down below. But here I'm just going to give you a quick bullet point form of what I thought of them, star ratings, what I'm using them for Bookemon and Battle of the Girl Bands, and then we'll continue on in this wrap-up vlog. So I did read 5 books last week, and the first one was a 5-star read by Hannah Kaner called God Killer. I love this book. This book is fabulous. I had a wonderful time with it. I've already pre-ordered the second book because it comes out in a month, and I need to know the continuation of this story. It left me on a bit of a cliffhanger, and I need to know more about this world and my people and what's happening, and I cannot wait to continue this story. If you like Little Thieves, I think you would like this book. It definitely has the same vibes of Little Thieves with kind of the mythology, folklorish type fantasy. And I really, really enjoyed my time with this. It might even be a new favorite. For Battle of the Girl Bands, obviously all of these are host favorites. So I did get the host favorite bonuses for all of these books that I'm going to be talking about, but I also used them for prompts. So I used this one for UK author, which is a steal from Team Spice Girls. And for Bookemon, I used this to get a chocolate milkshake for $5 for my Valentine's treat bag, and also to get my tiara. Then I read Thornhenge, which this is also on Timmy's TBR for the month, so got one of those done as well. And this book was also on my 12 Friends Recommend 12 Books by Danny, who is also the person whose host favorite this was. So this knocked out a ton of things on a ton of lists for me. I ended up giving this 4 stars and really enjoyed this kind of darker Sleeping Beauty retelling that T. Kingfisher did. And it makes me want to read more T. Kingfisher's fairy tale retellings, because I have read a book by T. Kingfisher in the past and it wasn't my favorite. So I'm excited that I enjoyed this as much as I did. I used this for the Spice Girls prompt of curious, but didn't want to spend money on it because I didn't know if I'd like it. Because again, I've read a T. Kingfisher book before and didn't love it, but this was a fairy tale retelling, so I was very intrigued. So that prompt was a perfect fit for this one. For Bookemon, I ended up using this to get a chocolate box for $5 for my Valentine Bookemon, and also for one of the 3 books that I need to read for the Magic Wand prompt. Then I read The Do-Over. Unfortunately, this was just a 3-star read for me. It was very YA, and I think I need to just give up on YA. Romance, contemporary YA romance is just not working for me. It has been a while since I've read one that I liked, except for Check and Mate by Allie Hazelwood. However, I do feel like that actually is more new adult than YA, but just wanted to mention that. This book was cute though. It's like repeating Valentine's Days. However, the groundhog trope again is a thing that doesn't work for me, and I need to stop trying. I need to stop trying the Groundhog Day trope. I don't like it. It's too repetitive. I need to give up, because that was another issue with this book for me. I use this as the second chance author prompt for Team TLC because I have read Lynn Painter earlier this year and it was just okay. So I wanted to try another Lynn Painter because I've heard great things, and this one came out as a 3-star as well. So I think Lynn Painter is just not for me, and that's okay. I know a lot of people love their books. For Bookemon, I ended up using this to get a chocolate lollipop for my Valentine's Day. as well as the regular lollipop for the regular Bookemon. It's a lollipop book, everyone. Then I read The Tiger's Wife by Taya Orbrit. This one, I really loved parts of this book, and other parts of this book, I was very confused. And we ended up at a 3-star rating for this one as well. I ended up using this for the prompt of has a doctor in it, because it does have a doctor in it. It has 2 doctors in it. Our main character and her grandfather are both doctors. They bond over being doctors. So it fit that prompt perfectly for Team TLC. Also with this, I got another chocolate box for my Valentine's Bookemon, and I used this to get the February Bookemon for vampires because there is some mythology about an undead man and people are wondering if he's a vampire, and her grandfather is like, I don't know. I need to see the science. I need to see the receipts. So it does have a bit of a vampire thing going on. So I use this for that prompt as well to get my second monthly Bookemon. And lastly, I did read Stud in the Stacks. This one I actually did not completely finish during the vlog. I still had 20% left in this when the vlog finished. And unfortunately, the ending I did not like. I did not like it. There were some things in the ending that are not my favorite, and it's not a favorite trope of mine in romance, and it didn't fully go into it, but it hinted towards it, and it just did not work for me, unfortunately. And the smut was just written a little bit too cringy for me because it was kind of bordering on trying to be satirical while also trying to be serious, and the mix just did not work for me. So this one actually only got a 2.5 star. I'm sorry. I know people love this book, but for me, it just did not work. That's where we shook out on that one. I told people in the vlog to check the wrap up for my final thoughts because I actually hadn't finished it yet. So 2.5 stars for Stud in the Stacks. For Battle of the Girl Bands, I use this for a book starting with the letter S. And for Bookemon, I did go to add it to my Valentine's Day treat bag, but then when I did the math, I realized the Tiger's Wife actually put me over the $25 amount. So I have officially gotten the Valentine's Day Bookemon.
Case closed.
I love catching all these little Bookemon. We got to catch them all, everyone. We've got to catch them all. Although you don't actually have to catch them all. You can participate as little or as much as you want, but I'm obsessive and want to catch them all. So now I have that one. But for the regular Bookemon, I did use this to get my seeds. And that is it for what I read last week. However, I am now taking a couple days off vlogging, so I will get to read for fun. I have some buddy reads coming up. When I do those, I will give you my full thoughts because they're not in videos. So I will give you my full thoughts on those books when we get to them, but I have to go finish them first. So I'm currently working on some chunky books. I'm currently reading The Great Hunt and Dune. I could take out an attacker with these 2 books. I could protect myself. I could save my life with these 2 books. They are so large. So this week is me reading some chunky books, and we'll see which ones I finish. I will definitely finish Dune. I don't think I'll finish The Great Hunt this week. And who knows what else I will read because I still have 2 Timmies TBR books. I think 2. Pretty sure just 2. So who knows? I may have more than 2, but I think it's just 2. So this week is a little bit, let's see what I can get done. So you're going to get a bit more of detailed synopses on the next few since they're not in their own reading vlogs. It is February 22nd and I have finished Dune. This book I enjoyed a lot more than I thought I was going to. I went in with almost no expectations. I signed up to read the first book with a buddy read and was like, I may or may not continue. I own the next 2 books, but I was definitely unsure if I was going to be continuing, but I think I will. We'll see. I really enjoyed the first half of this book, possibly because I just wasn't expecting to like it. I was so surprised at how much I enjoyed the first half of this book. Now, I will say this book was written in the 60s. A lot of things in here did not age well, and I'm not going to go into the full thoughts of that in this wrap-up video, but it is something to discuss and chat about in depth if you have someone that you want to discuss and chat about it in depth with. If I had done a full reading vlog, I certainly would, but in this wrap-up, I'm not going to go too in depth with it. But it's definitely something to keep in mind that it definitely has moments where it definitely did not age well. And it's split into a part 1, part 2, part 3 situation, book 1, book 2, book 3. And I felt book 1 and book 2 were significantly stronger than book 3. The pacing in book 3 was off. It was sped up significantly and it was the shortest part of this book. So the pacing just was too quick, and I felt like it lost a lot of what was great about the beginning in the end part of this book. I don't think at the time of publishing Dune, the author necessarily knew he was going to get sequels, and that kind of read in the book that he was rushing to finish this story. However, the audiobook is fantastic. The production of this audiobook is absolutely fantastic. The politics in this world I really liked and enjoyed diving into the politics of this world system. And also the look on climate fiction that I actually didn't really know was going to be in this book was really interesting as well, with the kind of desert planet and the consuming of water and how they really kind of even worshipped water because it was such a limited resource and a finite resource. That was all really interesting. So with all that being said, I ended up giving this a 4-star rating. And for all my various things, I'm going to use this as a book starting with D for Destiny's Child Steal for Battle of the Girl Bands. And for Bookemon, I'm going to use this for my monthly chicken book. This has all the colors that I need, and every month I need to have a chicken book so that at the end of 12 months, I have earned myself a chicken. This is going to be for the month and my second book required towards getting my chicken for Bookemon. So today is the 27th of February, and over the weekend I participated in 72 hours in the Reading Nook and finished 2 books. They were Mixed Signals and Wildfire. I do have a full vlog with my full thoughts on these books, which I will link down below. So if you want to see full in-depth thoughts, that's where you're going to go. But we'll do a little breakdown of them here for you as well. The first one I did was Wildfire, which, as you can see since filming this vlog, because this book is not in this vlog in this cover, I have received the special editions. Thank you so much, Alicia, again, for sending these to me. I'm beyond excited to own these and to have these for my shelves. So I do now have the special editions of Wildfire and Icebreaker. Now, I will say I did not love Wildfire as much as I loved Icebreaker. I gave this 4 stars, so I still liked it, but just not as much as I loved Icebreaker. But I am still happy to have both of these beautiful covers to display on my shelves. I think we're almost at the point where I need to redo my shelves so that I have a place to display some of my prettier books. So that might be happening very soon. Anyway, 4 stars. I did like this, not as much as Icebreaker. I really did love Russ and Aurora, but I wish I would have seen some of the therapy rep that was in the first book. I think we led that these people could use counseling and therapy with the things that are going on. They have some heavy familial things happening, but we didn't have that, which I felt strange since it was such a big focus of the first book. And I felt like it was just a little bit of a miss. But I did really like that there was representation of being a child of someone who has an addiction and kind of going through that. For Battle of the Girl Bands, I used this to steal a prompt from Team Spice Girls for anticipated read, because after reading Icebreaker, this was highly, highly anticipated. And for Bookemon, I used it to get my perfume, which I believe is the prompt of a romance book. And then I read Mixed Signals by B.K. Borson. This is the 3rd book in the Love Light Farm series. Amazingly, this is my favorite. I did not have high hopes for this book after book 2. I loved this, gave it 5 stars. This golden retriever man was everything I wanted. They are super sunshine, both of them, and it was just a feel-good read. Had me laughing out loud. The town people, which I loved the town in the first book, and I feel like this small town is some of the best small town vibes that I've seen in a book. This hit with everything. It had me laughing. It had me feeling all the cozies. Loved it. 5 stars. Absolutely had a fabulous time. For Battle of the Girl Bands, I used this to steal a prompt from Team TLC of a romance book. And for Bookemon, I used this to get my lantern. Now, that being said, I am done vlogging for the month. I have finished all my vlogs. My next week vlog will be this one. So I am just mood reading and finishing mandatory reads for the rest of the week, and I will take you along with me to do that. I also realized that I have not gotten the red lantern for the Lunar New Year Bookemon, and I believe I need to do that by the end of the month. So I need to read a book that's 50% red. When did I notice this? 10 minutes ago when I was picking what these were for. So I have 2 days to read a 50% red book. All of the books that I was planning on reading in the next 2 days were not 50% red. So Lord knows what I will be picking up for that. It will be something small on my shelves. That's all I can tell you. I don't even know at this point what that will be. But I do also need to finish Wheel of Time. I've got to finish The Great Hunt. Like, that needs to happen. I still have one Timmies TBR book to do. Luckily, it's Murderbot. It's like an hour and a half long, so that won't take long. So I've got to do that too. And I have a buddy read this week with Kelsey that I'm doing. Why are none of these 50% read? So yes, there is only 2 days left in the month, but if I've counted correctly, that means there is 4 books that I will be finishing over the next 2 days, and one of them I don't even know what it is. Send help, send prayers, and I will see you in the next clip when I've finished one of these 4 books. So today is the 28th of February, and yesterday I finished 2 books. So the first one I finished was The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan. I am reading The Wheel of Time for a read-along over on the B&K Discord, and I have finished the second book. These books are chunky. They are taking us a while, but we are slowly getting through them 1 book a month, and I'm really enjoying this series. The first book I ended up giving 3.5 stars. This one I gave 4, so I did like it a little bit more. I think there's a couple reasons for that. The pacing in this was a little bit more fast-paced. There was more going on. There was a lot of things happening in this world, and we were seeing kind of the culmination of things happening with our main characters and seeing kind of where they're going to be going as we continue through the books. We also saw our main character, Rand, really finally start to come to terms with his destiny and who he is and what he shall become in the books to come. So that was interesting. I do love so many characters in these books, and I really did like the ending of this. The ending of this, everyone told me The Great Hunt had a good ending, and I agree. They are correct. I used this to steal a prompt from Team Destiny's Child, and that was a book that intimidates me. The reason this intimidates me, it's large. I mean, I am starting to read more chunky books. I used to read a lot of chunky books when I was in my fantasy era a couple of years ago. Now I'm back into my fantasy era and I am reading chunky books again. But no matter how many times you read chunky books, they intimidate you. They do. And this whole series intimidates me just because it's a well-loved series. It is massive. It's very big. And also, there are a lot of characters in this series. There are a ton of characters. So there's a lot of reasons this intimidates me. So this was perfect for that. Then I ended up finishing All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is the first in the Murderbot series. Murderbot follows a murderbot. He is a robot who has somehow hacked his basically interface to not have to take commands from the government. So he kind of has some sentient abilities. He has some control over what he does and what he is commanded to do. This murderbot is on another planet. He is with a bunch of humans and he is trying to help them stay alive while they do research on this planet. Things go down. Things happen. But I really did like the way this book looked at freedom of choice. Freedom of what I want to do, what I want my life to look like. And even when people think they're giving you freedom, does that actually mean they're giving you freedom, or are they trying to make your life look the way they think it should? And that was a really interesting commentary in this book, and I ended up giving this 4 stars. For the Murderbot books, I ended up using this as another steal from Team Destiny's Child for the prompt of anticipated read. I also ended up DNFing a book. So The Perfumist of Paris, which I left upstairs because I've already put it in the bag to go back to the library. This is the 3rd and final book in the Henna Artist series. This was a series I was hoping to finish this year, and I did buddy read the first 2 books with Kelsey, and we were buddy reading the 3rd. I made it about 130, 140 pages through this book when I just could not. I could not do it. There's a few reasons. The character that we follow in this is Radha, who is possibly my least favorite character of the books. Also, there's a significant time jump. So she is an adult, she's raising her children, and I did find that part interesting. This part of her trying to find the line of being a mother and working and following your dreams, but also doing what you want to do for your family. Like, I found that really interesting. However, this book talks a lot about being a perfumer and a lot about scents. And that part of this book I was not caring about, and I just felt my mind wandering, and it was just not a book for me. Also, when we read the first 2 books in this series a few years ago, I read a lot more historical fiction than I do now. I don't read a ton of historical fiction, and I think the mix of me not wanting to read books of that genre right now in this current time period that I'm in, and also not being that interested in the like technological mixing of scents and fragrance made this book not for me. However, DNFing this book does make it so that I have taken a series off my series list because I will not, this is not a soft DNF. I'm not coming back to this. That's sad, but it also, you know, gets me closer to one of my goals. So sad, but also good. So yesterday was a pretty productive day between, finishing 2 books and DNFing 1, 3 books off the TBR. So I am currently on Sprints with Courtney, and I am going to be reading the red book that I mentioned to you yesterday. I needed a red book. I found one. So I'm going to go read that, and I will chat with you when I finish it. It's a short novella, so I will definitely chat with you tomorrow and let you know how that went. So it is March 1st, which means February is over, but I did finish one more book and I need to let you know about it. And that was The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Khaw. This book is a horror book, an odd choice for me, but you remember I needed a book that was 50% read. This book was very small, easy to fit in. Plus, it is a dark fairy tale retelling, continuation, look into fairy tale. So there was a couple reasons why this has been on my TBR. This looks into The Little Mermaid a little bit after The Little Mermaid story, kind of The Little Mermaid in a darker way, more closer to the original myth of mermaids, and kind of dispelling what actually happened to her and then what happened after. And y'all, this book was weird. It was so weird. And I mean, it's horror, so I should have expected that. But I did read Thornhenge earlier this year, and I did like that dark fairy tale retelling significantly more than I liked this one. That was much less weird. It followed a fairy tale-like story a little bit better. This one, I think if you liked horror, you would love this. This has a lot of body horror in it, and I don't think that's something that I personally enjoy. Leandra sent me this recommendation because of the fairy tale retelling and the gothic vibes of this. And those parts of this, I really, really did enjoy. There were sentences and quotes in here that I kept sending to Leandra, and I was like, oh, I can see why you thought I would like this book. Like, this is so me, this part of the story. So me. The way the narrator, our mermaid, is kind of like, no, that's not what happened. You'd think I would give away my voice for a man? She's like, let me tell you what actually happened. Let me tell you the real story. Let me break it down for you. And that feminist look at The Little Mermaid, I really did like a lot. So there were things about this that I liked a lot. And then there were some things that I think if you liked horror and liked weird books, you would love this for those. Those are just not something that I personally enjoy. And there were definitely times in this book where I was like, I know what's happening, but like, why? Where are we going? What are we doing? And I think that is always my problem with this type of horror. There are types of horror that I really do like, and that's more the side where something is horrific, like The Butterfly Garden is a great example. Something where there isn't anything like paranormal or strange about it. There is like something horrific happening and something horrible happening, so it is classified as horror. So I do like that kind of horror. I do like gothic horror. This is gothic horror, so it does fall into what I do like. And again, the fairy tale part was something that I did like. But the body horror and the weirdness of it is just not something that I personally gravitate towards or enjoy. So I ended up giving this 3 stars. But it does complete the prompt that I needed for Bookemon, and I now have my red paper lantern. This does not fit anything for Battle of the Girl Bands because it's too small. We had a 100-page minimum, so this does not count for that, but it did help me finish off what I needed to finish off for Bookemon for this month. So I have now gotten the Lunar New Year Bookemon. Woohoo! And I'm ready to close out the month and tell you kind of how overall things went. I mean, you've seen me reading all the books, but let me tell you how the month really, really went down. So for the month of February, I ended up reading 17 books, which resulted in 5,777 pages. And there are 2 books that I think are very high potentials to be on my best books of the year, which made it really hard to come and tell you what my best book of the month was, because there are 2 possibilities that I think really could be best books of the year. So to pick between them was hard. Those 2 books are Flamefall and Godkiller. I adored both of these books so much, but if I had to pick which one I loved a little bit more, I think it has to be Flamefall, and that's just because I love this world so much. And the devastation and the ride that I went on through this book was a time. And I just love this world and I love these dragons. But Godkiller is up there. My worst book of the month is my only 2-star read of the month, and that was Stud in the Stacks by Pippa Grant. I'm sorry, Amy. I know you love this book, but it just wasn't for me. But that is the end of this vlog. Thank you so much for watching me go through the month of February. I hope you liked this kind of layout. Also, if you are interested in my full thoughts on any of the ones that I said I did videos for, in those videos, in the timestamps, you can click on what book you wanted more info on, and it will take you right to that part in the video. So if you're wanting to go back and just see on a very specific book like God Killer, because that is in a video and not fully in here, that would be the way to do that. And you can just click God Killer and it'll take you right there. But it is now March, so I need to start that wrap up vlog and end this one. Thank you so much for watching. What was your favorite book of February? Maybe that's a hard question like it was for me, but I want to know down below. If it's a couple, you can let me know a couple of books as well. If you want to hang out with me more, my links to Patreon, Goodreads, and Instagram are linked down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.